So after UFC 274, the UFC is once again back in Las Vegas in the Apex. I think we only got 3 more of these. And I'm not going to lie, the cards aren't great from here on out. We got 3 fight nights before I believe the UFC goes full back on fight nights with crowds. We got Blachowicz, Rakic, Home Vieira, and then we got Rosenstruik and Volkov. We're starting things off this week with an 11-fight card featuring Jan Blachowicz, the former light heavyweight champion, and Aleksander Rakic in the main event. And folks, if you haven't yet, make sure that subscribe button down below for some more UFC here on the channel. And real quick, looking at UFC 274, we go 8-6, not a bad night. I mean, the big win I think's got to be Carlos Esparza by split decision. I mean, I said that was going to happen. I thought she was going to win by decision. Now, did I think the fight was going to be that boring? No, I thought Carla won the fight. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Rose didn't do anything in that fight. At least Carla won on octagon control. It was terrible, but I mean, still, Esparza's your new champ. We had Gagey by knockout in the first round. Didn't really go our way. I mean, Oliveira's good, man. No, there's nothing I can say about that. And then Michael Chandler is the man. I really love watching Michael Chandler fight. That front kick knockout to the face of Tony Ferguson was brutal. But Michael Chandler is one of the most explosive guys at 155. Or no, he is the most explosive guy at 155. So really excited to see where he goes from there. We went 8-6, not a bad night. Let's get on now to this fight night card. So only 11 fights this week, and for some reason, I don't know why this is opening everything. I mean, it's Nick Maximov taking on Andre Petroski, and like when I saw the bout order on Twitter, I tweeted, why is Nick Maximov going from the co-main event down to the prelim opener? I mean, hey, also go make sure to follow us on the socials, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, anyways. But yeah, I tweet that. Nick Maximov likes the tweet too. He's like, I mean, I don't think he knows why he's on the prelim opener too. But again, this makes no sense why this is so early on the card, but it's a good fight. I mean, Andre Petroski's a guy undefeated in the UFC's 2-0 since coming over from the Ultimate Fighter. Now, has he fought the best guys in the UFC so far? No, he hasn't. I mean, he fought Hu Yaozhang and Michael Gilmore, and I don't think, I know Gilmore's on the UFC anymore. I don't think Yaozhang's in the UFC either anymore, but still, he's won 2 fights in a row. The first fight over Gilmore is just a dominant performance. He takes him down at will, eventually finishes him in the 3rd round by TKO, and then the Yaozhang fight, the 3rd round, he submits him with an arm triangle late in the 3rd. So he's 2-0 so far. It's been dominant wrestling performances out of Andre Petroski. In the Hu Yaozhang fight, looked for a lot of submissions, eventually got one again late in that 3rd. For Nick Maximov, first fight he comes in, he beats Cody Brundage, he takes him down. He doesn't do the most damage to Brundage, but just controls that fight and keeps Brundage down in his back for the entirety of the fight. In the Hadley Soriano fight in the co-main event for Manson Strickland, it's Nick Maximov going to the well multiple times in the takedowns, 11 of 16 on his takedown attempts in that fight, over 8 minutes of control in that one for Maximov, winning a split decision. You had 29-28 for Maximov, 30-27 for Maximov, and 29-28 for Soriano. Maximov, of course, gets the decision by split decision in the co-main event, and now we're here stuck on a prelim opener for Maximov. I mean, the better wrestler in this fight's going to win. I think both these guys will look to try to take this fight to the ground, because that's obviously where both these guys are good at. Maximov, very good at controlling his opponents once he does get them on their back, like he did to Brundage and like he did to Punahele. So you're going to see Petroski and Maximov, both these guys trying to push the pace, trying to be the aggressor when it does come to shooting takedowns, and when it does come into controlling this fight on the mat. And that's basically how you got to pick this fight. Do you think Petroski's better, or do you think Maximov's better? I think it's got to be Nick Maximov, right? We've seen Maximov go in there, take down a guy like Soriano, who is pretty damn solid out there. I've seen Nick Maximov go in there and dominate Oscar Cota on the ground. Oscar Cota is not a world beater by any stretch of the imagination. He's a heavyweight who hasn't fought since fighting Maximov at the Contender Series in 2020. But Cota came into that fight weighing like 50 more pounds than Nick Maximov. Maximov fought that fight at 265 and held down a heavyweight for 3 rounds. If he can do that against Cota, I think he should be able to do that against Petroski. Obviously, the takedown defense is better out of Andre Petroski, but I mean, hell, Brian Battle submitted him in the 2nd round. I think Maximov's got a better gas tank. I think he can catch him in a submission if he has to. I like Nick Maximov to go in there, beat Andre Petroski in the opener. Got Maximov by decision. Next fight is Carlos Candelario taking on Tatsuro Taira. That fight was supposed to happen 2 weeks ago in Fontenvera. Already talked about the fight, so we're just going to roll that from a couple weeks ago. Tatsuro Taira taking on Carlos Candelario. And for Taira, I mean, undefeated so far, 10-0, coming into the UFC, his first appearance with the promotion. He's only 22 years old. He's been fighting in Japan a lot. And yeah, he's really good on the ground, has a lot of good submission victories, and has been pretty much untouchable so far outside of the UFC. And he's fought some pretty good competition as well. You look at his last fight, winning by rear naked choke in the 1st round. That was in November of last year against a guy who was 6-2 at the time. Before that, beating a guy who was 12-5-1 by triangle choke in the 1st round. And then before that, beating a guy who was 38-18-3 by rear naked choke in the 1st round. So he's fighting decent competition over in Shoot, though, and all those promotions that he is seeing over there in Asia. And he's taking on Carlos Candelario, the first ever fighter to be signed off the Contender Series on that very night, coming off a loss. He had that split decision loss to Victor Altamirano. Now, Altamirano's now in the UFC, and he couldn't get the win over Carlos Hernandez, a split decision win that they gave to Hernandez. I thought Altamirano won, but that's all right. But Candelario had 2 shots in the contender. The first one he won back in 2017. Didn't fight for 4 years after that, then won on CES, picked up a win by unanimous decision, then came back, turned it around against Altamirano, coming back down to flyweight, lost by split decision, but now he's getting the shot against Tetsudo Taira. As for Candelario, though, his last fight against Altamirano, it was pretty close. I took that one, I think, on relatively short notice, and that was a factor of him getting the contract. But it was a pretty close fight. He was able to land takedowns in his own right, and Altamirano was as well. But it's a pretty solid fight on the feet. Candelario had the advantage on the ground in that fight, which is interesting because considering his first fight in the contender, he did get taken down 8 times in that fight, but was able to keep the fight standing. And when that fight was on the feet, he was the aggressor and was pushing the pace up there. But in this fight, I think Tetsudo Taira is just all around better. Definitely, I think he's going to try to get this fight on the ground, and I think Taira does have the advantage down there. Like, maybe pure wrestling-wise, Candelario might be a little better than Taira, but I think once Taira is able to drag this one on the ground, he should be able to go in there and get a submission. So I'm going to go with Tetsudo Taira to submit Carlos Candelario in the opener by a second-round submission. I think this next fight's really dependent on if Jandiroba can get Angela Hill on the ground. I mean, I think that's the obvious, play here. It's a matter of can Jandiroba take Angela Hill down? Because, I mean, you know what Angela Hill does well. She strikes well, and even her last fight against Amanda Lemos, I mean, she's in the fight late, and it's another one of those close Angela Hill fights, and she's been in so many of them. And then really, like, her only, like, last decision that she lost that was close, or that wasn't close, was the Tisha Torres fight. Torres comes in there and, kind of beats her pretty handily. I mean, Hill does go down to try to take her down a couple times, but can't really do much with it. Torres is just keeping her on the feet and kind of outboxing her. Yeah, you look at Hill's fight against Lemos. It's not a bad fight. She gets knocked down in the first round, but other than that, Hill does come back as that fight does progress. She beats Ashley Yoder in a fight that you knew she was going to win. Loses to Michelle Watterson in a very close main event. I scored it for Watterson. A lot of people scored it for Hill, but I mean, I really do see either argument for that one. The Claudia Gadelha fight, I thought Hill won, but Gadelha does all right in that fight. It's a close fight that Hill does knock down Gadelha in. Gadelha lands a takedown late in the fight, but still, they gave it to Claudia. Again, it's just a matter of if Jandiroba can take down Hill. It does get concerning with Hill, considering like Ashley Yoder took her down. Ashley Yoder was able to hold her down for a little bit too, which doesn't make me want to pick Angela Hill that much. But in a pure striking fight with Jandiroba and Hill, obviously Hill's going to be able to outstrike. Yes, Jandiroba does have some power, and Jandiroba can throw a big overhand right that does put down some of her opponents. You look at the Ribas fight, that is the most recent one where Jandiroba was able to land a knockdown. Maybe your only knockdown so far in the UFC yet is. But I mean, look at the Kanako Maruta fight. She's able just to outstrike Maruta. It's a stand-up fight that doesn't really, nothing much really happens in that one. Mackenzie Dern's a striking fight. Dern outstrikes Jandiroba, so it kind of shows you where Jandiroba striking is at. The Jandiroba Felice Herrig fight, she's able to take down Felice Herrig, and she submitted her in 2 minutes, by the way. Is Felice Herrig fighting Karolina Kowalkiewicz next? Okay, apparently that's happening. Jandiroba, Mallory Martin's just more the same. Jandiroba taking her down, submitting her in the second round. Then she took on the new strawweight champion in Carla Esparza back in 2019, where she lost by unanimous decision. Yeah, it's an interesting fight to pick. It's just a matter of Jandiroba can get a takedown or not. She took down Amanda Ribas, and she was able to hold Ribas down for a little bit. She took down Mackenzie Dern, but Dern again is so willing to let herself get taken down because she wants to be on her back. Charles Oliveira effect, basically. And then, like, Jandiroba was able to take down Martin, but she's not really that great of a wrestler. I mean, she's okay, but, that's not what she's known for. And, hell, Jandiroba was able to take down Carla Esparza, too. So if she's able to do all that, honestly, I think she'll beat Angela Hill as well. I think it will be Jandiroba's ability to take down Hill, which is going to win her the fight. If Hill's able to keep this one on the feet, obviously, I think she will be able to box at Jandiroba, as Jandiroba's only going to have, one... she's going to just have one punch that's going to be able to keep her in the fight. It's just going to be one big overhand right, and then Hill outboxing her and out-voluming her, and then Jandiroba throwing another big overhand, and then back to, what she's doing. So I don't think Jandiroba's going to be able to strike Hill, but I think definitely when you look at the jiu-jitsu, you look at the grappling that Jandiroba does have, I think should be enough to propel her to victory in this one. I like Jandiroba to beat Angela Hill by decision. Not my most confident pick, but we're going with Jandiroba. Flip a coin. Michael Lemenis Johnson taking on Alan Patrick. I don't know, dude. I mean, Michael Johnson's 19-17. He's been very bad recently, given he's fought a lot of good fighters, but man, this is tough to pick. I mean, Alan Patrick looked horrible in his last fight. I mean, he quit in that fight, looked for a way out. It was an eye poke, then he wasn't that hurt from it in the Mason Jones fight. He was getting dominated. He wanted a way out. It was a no contest. I mean, the guy got dominated by Bobby Green, no shame in that. He got dominated by Scott Hot Sauce Holtzman. The last time we saw a good Alan Patrick, the Damir Hadzovic fight, when he just, you know, the classic Alan Patrick going to the well a million times with the takedowns. I mean, that's what he was doing when he did go on that 3-fight winning streak, when he beat Damian Brown, beat Stevie Ray, and beat Damir Hadzovic. I mean, he wasn't really striking all that much. It was just takedowns out of Alan Patrick, was able to hold his opponents down and keep him down there. Hell, in the Hadzovic fight, 12 minutes and 26 seconds of control time in that fight. The Stevie Ray fight, 12 minutes and 12 seconds. The Damian Brown fight, 12 minutes and 21 seconds. I mean, there was dominant wrestling performances out of Patrick back to back to back, which did give him that fight against Holtzman, where he loses, he gets TKO'd in the third. But I mean, hell, the guy was, what, minus 320 favorite going in that one. I mean, Alan Patrick at one point in time did have a lot of hype around him. The problem is now he's 38 years old. He wasn't able to get the last couple opponents down because Bobby Green was able to, you know, do well in the takedown defense. Bobby Green went 4 for 6 on his takedowns. Alan Patrick went 1 for 6 on his takedown. So, you know, he got out-wrestled by Green, out-struck by Green. Mason Jones just better than Alan Patrick everywhere. And the last time we saw Alan Patrick, he was just so slow. He just couldn't get going against Mason Jones. He's a good fighter. But now you're taking on a guy in Michael Johnson, who's been around for forever, and I'm surprised Michael Johnson is 3 years younger than Patrick. He's 35, Patrick is 38, and Michael Johnson's been around for a while. I mean, making his debut, obviously, after the Ultimate Fighter. It was Team GSP versus Team Koscheck. He loses the finale of that card, but hell, his second fight's on, like, Czech Congo versus Pat Barry back in 2011 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The guy's been around for a while. He's taken on the who's of names here in MMA. I mean, he's got a win over Tony Ferguson, he's got a win over Dustin Poirier, he's got a win over Edson Barbosa, and then he's got losses to, like, Thiago Moises, Clay Guida, Stevie Ray, and, you know, Darren the Damage Elkins. He's fought the best of the best, don't get me wrong. He's fought like Khabib, he's fought Gaethje, he's fought Diaz, he's fought Dariush. It's just weird. I don't know. Like, what Michael Johnson are we going to get? He's been submitted 9 times in his career, which is concerning. Clay Guida was able to take him down at will, and if Clay Guida is able to take him down at will, then yeah, there is a pathway to victory definitely for Alan Patrick. Stevie Ray took him down, that majority decision loss over in Singapore, but Stevie Ray wasn't really able to keep Michael Johnson down. I just don't know what Michael Johnson we're going to get. Because Michael Johnson, don't get me wrong, he's a good striker. Yeah, he can still strike at this point of his career. He outstruck Clay Guida. He was outstriking Moises. He was dominating Moises in the first round, but until the second where Moises took him down and got the ankle lock. We'll see, man. It's just dependent if Johnson can keep the fight standing. That's all it is. If Michael Johnson's able to keep this fight on the feet and you know, not get taken down by Alan Patrick, he's going to win. If he gets taken down, I mean, hell, you've seen how quickly Michael Johnson's able to get submitted. I mean, the Thiago Moises fight, Darren Elkins fight, Khabib dominated him. That fight was disgusting. But, like, you know what I'm talking about, right? It's as long as as long as Johnson's able to keep fight standing, he is able to win. I just don't know what Alan Patrick we're going to get either. Again, I said earlier, flip a coin. You don't know what you're going to get out of this fight. You don't know what Michael Johnson you're going to get. You don't know what Alan Patrick you're going to get. Ever so slightly, I'm going with the Menace and Michael Johnson. I don't think that's his nickname anymore, but so I'm going to call him that. I like Michael the Menace Johnson to go in there. I think he'll be able to keep the fight on the feet, and I think he'll be able to beat Alan Patrick by decision. This, again, is just such a weird fight, but I'm going with Michael Johnson. Next up at women's flyweight, we've got Viviane Araujo taking on Andrea Lee. The winner of this fight, honestly, could be next to the title, I think. I mean, yeah, you got some opponents. I think Caitlin Chookagian's probably next. I think you're getting to this point where Chookagian has beat a lot of these fighters, and if she beats Amanda Ribas, I think she will be getting that rematch against Valentina just so you can kind of get that one out of the way. But the winner of this fight could, like, definitely fight, like, I don't know, if they do Manon Fiorot versus Alexa Grasso, which I don't think they're going to do, but they'll fight one of those two, and maybe that could be next to the title. I don't know. Tyler Sampson's going to fight Valentina next. You know how that fight's going to end. But anyway, Araujo and Andrea Lee. Don't look now, but Andrea Lee's putting together a nice little winning streak. I know it's only 2 fights, but she looked really good in her last 2 fights. I mean, hell, the Shevchenko fight, she goes in there, she just dominates Antonina, she dominates on the feet, she dominates on the ground. It's pretty impressive. She gets her with a triangle armbar in the second round, breaking a 3-fight losing streak, and a losing streak where she didn't really lose to Lauren Murphy. Like, you know, she beat Lauren Murphy in Texas. That was ridiculous. The Joanne Wood fight's close, and then the Roxy Modafferi fight was probably the only fight out of those 3 that she actually did lose. But Roxanne's just... don't get me started on watching Roxanne Modafferi fight. Anyways, though, you look at Lee's last fight against Cynthia Calvillo, it's by far the best performance of her career. I mean, yeah, the Montana De La Rosa fight was really good because she was able to dominate on the feet, but she still got taken down in that one. The Calvillo fight, she kept the fight standing basically throughout the entirety of the fight. I mean, Calvillo landed 1 takedown, but Andrea Lee popped right back up. It was just dominance on the feet against Calvillo. Calvillo broke her nose in that one. I mean, it's just, look at the damage that Andrea Lee puts on Cynthia Calvillo in those 10 minutes. She wins the performance of the night bonus in that one. Calvillo can't get off the stool after the second round. Andrea Lee wins by doctor stoppage or corner stoppage. It's a great win for her. And it's really a win that makes you think that maybe she can be a challenger here at 125, a champion. I don't know if we can say that considering who the champion currently is, but anyways, Viviane Araujo, her opponent now, 35 years of age is Araujo. She is still relatively new to this, to this division. She makes her UFC debut in 2019, and then she goes on a two-fight winning streak, the latter end of it, beating Alexis Davis by unanimous decision. She loses a close fight to Jessica Ai. It's a fight where maybe Araujo won, maybe she didn't. The Montana De La Rosa fight, She wins as well. It's a closer fight, but she does beat De La Rosa. And then in the Roxanne Modafferi fight, she just dominates her. That was kind of sad to watch Roxanne go through that. And the Chookagian fight, another very close fight. A lot of people thought Araujo won. I thought Chookagian did enough, though, to get the victory. So Araujo, though, very good takedown defense. She's able to keep fights standing a lot. Not like I think Andrea Lee's going to want to go down there, considering that, Araujo's jiu-jitsu is pretty solid. But you're going to see a boxing strike. You're going to see a striking/boxing fight in this one between Lee and Araujo. And Lee does throw kicks. Same with Araujo, too. So you're just going to see kickboxing in this one. It should make for a really fun fight. Just look at Araujo's fighting against Chookagian. Again, she loses, but Kaylin Chookagian is such a technically sound fighter where she's able to keep her distance. She's really, Kaylin Chookagian barely gets in any trouble in her fights. Araujo dominates Roxanne Modafferi, but Roxanne Modafferi and Montana De La Rosa, for that sake, back-to-back fights, and even Alexis Davis, those are three fighters who are primary grapplers and primary wrestlers who are trying to get fights down to the ground. Those three, you're not going to really get a real test and a real measure to see how good Viviana Araujo is on the feet against those three. Because with Andrea Lee, we've seen her against some credible strikers. Now, has she won some of those fights? No. I mean, the Joanne Wood fight, she does get outstruck, but she does stay in the fight. It is a split decision. The Antonina Shevchenko fight, Shevchenko's not the greatest striker, not the greatest fighter in all, but still she does do pretty well on the feet against her. Same with Calvillo. Calvillo's not a great striker, but I would say Calvillo's a higher level striker than a Montana De La Rosa or even a Roxanne Modafferi as well. So I think Lee's fought the better opponents, and I think Andrea Lee is going to be able to beat Viviana Araujo in this one. I think she's going to. I think you're going to see kickboxing, obviously, throughout this entire fight. And I just think Lee's the better kickboxer between these two. I really think she is. I really liked what I saw out of the Calvillo fight. Really put a beat down on Cynthia. And I mean, again, her kickboxing looked so good in that fight. Her striking, she was, mixing together her combinations really well. I'm high on Andrea Lee in this division. Now, do I think she can beat a fighter like an Alexa Grasso? Maybe not, but that's a fight that I would like to see next. The winner get a title shot potentially. Manon Fiorot would be a tricky fight, but I think, Lee could definitely have a good chance of winning that one too. I think Andrea Lee wins. I think she really puts herself in the conversation to get a title shot next. I'm going to go Andrea Lee to beat Viviana Araujo, like her by decision. Next up, we've got the debut of Jake Hadley, and he's taking on Alan Nascimento. For Hadley, he comes in after winning the Contender Series last year against Mitch Raposo, obviously a former Ultimate Fighter in Mitch Raposo. And yeah, Hadley wins. He misses weight going into that fight, though. He weighs in at 127 for a contracted 125 fight, so misses weight by a pound. He's minus 300 favor in that one. He goes in there, he submits Mitch Raposo in the second by rear naked choke. Pretty dominant. I mean, you know what Hadley does well. He's a very good grappler. He's a very good wrestler, trying to get fights to the mat at all times and try to submit his opponents. Did the same exact thing to Raposo. Now, he misses weight, and Dana White, against, I guess, what the other matchmakers, I think it's Hunter Campbell, and what the other matchmakers wanted. They didn't want him to sign Hadley because Hadley was apparently just being an asshole, apparently around backstage and all that, but Dana signs him anyway. He's got high hopes for what Hadley can bring to the octagon. They're giving him a lot of Nascimento, a guy who we said it was kind of confusing when they did sign him to the UFC because he fights Ralian Paiva back in 2018. He loses the fight by split decision on the Contender Series. Loses it, comes back. He wins a fight 3 years later by rear naked choke in the first round against a 5-2 guy, and they bring him in to fight Tigre Ulanbekov. He loses by split decision in a fight where it's just Ulanbekov dominating on the ground. On the feet, when in the small parts of that fight where it did take place in the feet, Nascimento was winning, but on the ground it was all Tigre Ulanbekov. And yes, Nascimento did threaten a little bit off his back, but you couldn't really do much against what the game of Tigre Ulanbekov, what the game of Tigre Ulanbekov was, which was just dominating on the ground, using his wrestling and pushing the pace down there. So can Jake Hadley do the same exact thing? 110% he can. And I think it's a perfect fight for Hadley to come in here. It's a very good entry-level fight for him in the UFC because considering the way Nascimento lost his first fight in the UFC, Hadley should be able to do the same exact thing, and I think in an even better fashion, because you saw, again, he's already got the game plan on how to beat Nascimento. He just saw Ulanbekov do it. If Hadley can do the same thing, go to the well multiple times with the takedowns, try to keep Nascimento down, maybe look for a submission. I don't think he's going to be able to sub a guy like Nascimento because Nascimento's jiu-jitsu is very good, but pure wrestling positionally wise, I think Hadley's so much better on the ground, and that's why I like Jake Hadley to come in here in his first UFC fight and beat Alan Nascimento. Like him by decision at minus 195. Pretty good pick right now, I think, for Jake Hadley. Again, I just don't think that highly of Nascimento. And if this fight is in the feet, then Nascimento, and definitely that's how Nascimento is going to be able to have to win this fight, will be on the feet. Considering I know he's got 14 submissions, I know he only has one knockout finish, but matchup wise, Nascimento does have the advantage on the feet, I do think, over Hadley, but again, I don't think he's gonna be able to keep it up there. I think we'll go to the ground, and I think Hadley will have the advantage down there. So I'm gonna go Jake Hadley to win this one by unanimous decision. Why this fight's in the main card is beyond me, but here you go. It's Frank Camacho versus Manuel Torres. For Torres making his UFC debut, and like this is such a winnable fight for both guys. Camacho's been bad in the UFC, let's not put it lightly. He's 2-5 so far in the promotion. Comes in, loses to Li Jingliang by unanimous decision. Li Jingliang dominates him. He beats Damian Brown by split decision. It's a good fight, don't get me wrong. His first 3 fights are all really good. I mean, high output on the feet from Camacho and his opponents. He beats Damian Brown in the second one. He loses to Drew Dober in his third, and since then it's been pretty tough for him. He gets knocked out by Jeff Neal. He beats Nick Hine, and then he loses to Beneil Dariush where he gets choked down the first round, and then he loses to Justin James, the Guitar Hero, in 40 seconds, and Justin James is by far outside the UFC now. After he bet on himself to beat Charles Rosa, he loses, and yeah, I mean, Justin James outside the UFC now. Camacho gets knocked out by him in 40 seconds. I think, is that Justin James' only win in the UFC? It might be. Kind of showing you where Camacho's at. And he's 32 years old, which, again, is not that old, but, man, it's been a rough time for Frank Camacho so far in the UFC. Now, his opponent, though, Emmanuel Torres, it's not like Torres is the greatest fighter in the world. He's not. I mean, Torres comes into the UFC off a win over Colton England on the Contender Series. He knocks him out in 2 minutes. Okay. But before that, he's beating a bunch of guys. He beats Carlos Enrique Canada, who's, I mean, he's just fighting guys with country last names. I don't know. He beats this dude in Canada in 2021. He beats him by guillotine choke in the first round. The guy's 10-11. He beats Daniel Vega, who's 12-2 in Combate. He chokes him out the rear naked choke in the first round. Loses before that in Mexican regional promotion. Beats Luis Pedro, I'm not even going to try that last name, back in 2019. He loses to guys 8-7 before that. Yeah, Torres isn't the greatest. Not in like any stretch of imagination. He's not great, is Manuel Torres. But you don't have to be all that great to be Frank Camacho, right? I don't think he's going to have any trouble in this one. I think Camacho's chin's kind of gone, honestly. He's been knocked out 5 times. Got knocked out by James. Got knocked out by Neal. Got knocked outside the UFC a lot when he fought in, regional promotions in either the Northern Marina Islands or in Guam. Because he's, Camacho, I believe Camacho's from Marina Islands, or he's from Guam, but still. Yeah, he's been knocked out a lot. His chin's just not very good. I think if Torres is going to be able to touch the chin early, I like Manuel Torres to come in here and make a statement in his first fight in the UFC. I'm going to go first round knockout for Torres, not because I think all that highly of him. It's just because I don't think Camacho's all that good anymore. I like Manuel Torres in his UFC debut to pick up a first round knockout win over Frank Camacho. Oh, Kalen Chookagian's fighting. Wonder how this fight ends. I mean, okay, Amanda Ribas is fighting at flyweight, which is interesting because her only flyweight fight to date is the win over Paige Van Zandt and a win where she said, yeah, I'm never fighting here again. Like, I'm so much better at 115. I don't know why I'm fighting at 125. She fought, well, she knew because she's going to get a payday fighting Paige Van Zandt, and she got a lot of attention winning that fight. Anyways, she went back to 115. She lost to Marina Rodriguez. This fight where Ribas minus 345 favorite. She loses by KO in the second round. She beats Vina Jandiroba, though, bouncing back UFC 267. And now here we are against Chookagian. She's supposed to fight Angela Hill twice, but both fights didn't happen. She's supposed to take on Michelle Waters, and that one didn't happen either. And now here we are with her and Chookagian. Okay, Amanda Ribas is 5'3". Ken Chookagian's 5'9". And now, like, Chookagian's always going to have a reach advantage in all of her fights. I mean, she should. And this one, though, is only going to be 2 inches. Chookagian has 68-inch reach advantage, or inch reach, good lord. And then for Ribas, she's got 66-inch reach. But still, Chookagian's going to be so much taller. And I'm just afraid this is going to be a classic Chookagian fight. Because you know it's going to be. It's going to be her keeping her distance. She's not going to get in any trouble. She's going to kick. She's going to ha, like she always does, like with, the feints that she throws. It's just going to be a Kalen Chookagian fight. She'll grapple a little bit. She'll push her up against the fence. She'll clinch. She'll break that. Ribas just won't be able to get going. Like, I know Ribas, she's very active when she fights. She's trying to always, like, be the aggressor in her fights, and she's always moving. She's always got head movement going. She's always bobbing and whatnot, but that's really not going to matter because Kalen Chookagian is so much bigger than her. Chookagian has done this a million times over. I mean, I've seen her fight all these, fighters who are trying to make a run at 125, and she sent them back down the ladder. Jennifer Maia, Viviane Araújo, Calvillo, Antonina Shevchenko, Jennifer Maia again. It's what Chookagian does. It's one of like this pick itself is not like one of the biggest locks of all time, but it's always something you could always count on is Kalen Chookagian winning by decision, and I feel like this is it again. Like, yeah, Ribas is going to have some spots in this one, I think, on the feet, but she's not going to take down Chookagian, right? That's not going to happen. Is Chookagian going to take down Ribas? Probably not. I mean, maybe she might a little bit if she engages in the clinch, but I just think this is going to be a kind of a boring kickboxing fight that Chookagian is just outclassing Ribas in. And I don't think it's going to be like a dominant performance where it's like, oh my goodness, you could have stopped this fight for the second round. No, Ribas is barely going to take any damage, but Chookagian's going to outpoint her. She's going to out-technique her. She's going to be the better technical striker, and she was going to be Amanda Ribas. She's going to get it done by unanimous decision. right? Because you know Ribas' jiu-jitsu is good. I don't think she's gonna be able to take her down. She's a smaller fighter by far in this one. She's not a natural 125 pounder. I just don't get the matchmaking. I don't know what we're doing here because I think Chookagian is, again, bigger than Ribas. Ribas won't be able to get this fight on the ground. She'll get stuck in the same game that everybody plays with Chookagian, which is the boring striking game, engaging in Chookagian using her push kicks, getting away from obviously using her jab to keep the reach, keep her distance. It's going to be another Kevin Chookagian victory. She's going to beat Amanda Ribas by decision. You may not like it. It may not win fight of the night. It definitely won't win fight of the night. But Kevin Chookagian wins yet again. Minus 145 seems very good right now in Chookagian on this line. I like her to beat Amanda Ribas by decision. Next up, we've got Dangerous Davy Grant taking on Luis Smolka. For Davy Grant, he's on a 2-fight losing streak. But I mean, those are 2 losses where you probably couldn't have looked any better. Like, Davy Grant's looked very good in 2 losses. He had a Fight of the Year contender against Marlon Vera. I mean, Chito Vera is a very good guy who we just saw in that Rob Font fight, put a beat down on Rob Font. And Davy Grant went 3 rounds with him and had a somewhat competitive fight. So he had a decision win for Vera, but still, it's a good fight on Chan Sung Jung and Dan Ige back in June of last year. Fight after that, he loses to Adrian Yanez. He's a split decision fight with Yanez in November of last year, and Yanez has been undefeated so far in the UFC. Davy Grant's the only guy Yanez has not finished yet. Right, all his other wins for Yanez has been by knockout. That one, it was a decision victory. It was a very close fight. They gave it to Yanez over Grant. I agree on the decision on that one, but still, it's a very close fight and all that. So Grant before that, he knocked out Martin Day back at UFC 251 on Usman Masvidal. He puts him away in the 3rd round, and then the fight after that, he beats Jonathan Martinez, knocking Martinez out with a huge, and I mean absolutely huge, overhand left, sitting down Martinez in that 2nd round. And to that point, Martinez had a lot of hype around him as well. Grant's coming back at a plus 250 underdog, sits him down in the 2nd round, and wins the fight. So that's the Davy Grant we've seen more recently. I mean, you can look at the guy who beats Popov back in 2019, but I mean, really, it's been those last 4 fights that you can really look at Davy Grant, and you've seen the improvement out of him. And yeah, he's 2-2 in those last 4 fights, but again, those 2 losses are as good as you can possibly look in a loss. Now, he's taking on Luis Smolka. And Luis Smolka recently, I mean, okay, he beats Jose Alberto Quinones. But Alberto Quinones, is he still in the UFC? I don't think he is. I think he's been cut by now. At least I think he has. Yeah, he's now fought XFC's last fight where he beat Andre Sokolmoth, who I think's retired now after he lost in CES for the championship, I think. But anyways, Jose Alberto Quinones is not very good. Luis Smolka beats him. Okay, KOs him in the 2nd round. And yeah, Smolka's still got some power. Not really, but I mean, he's more of a volume guy that's eventually going to put you away. I mean, he beat Ryan McDonald. He knocked him out in the 1st round, and Cowboy Gagey. But whenever Smolka takes on, like, these better guys, he loses. And I don't even know if Vince Morales is one of these guys who I can say is, like, one of these top 25 guys in the weight class. But, I mean, he loses to Morales. He gets knocked down in the 1st round. I just don't see the match being here. I think Grant's as a higher level fighter than a Vince Morales, than a Jose Alberto Quinones, than a Ryan McDonald. I mean, then I even a Sue Madarji maybe. Even though I do think pretty highly of Madarji, I just think Grant's just so much better than Luis Smolka. I think he's gonna knock him out in the 1st round. I don't know how Smolka wins this one because Grant's better on the feet. On the ground, I like Davy Grant too. Again, I don't see a pathway to victory for Luis Smolka in this fight. I just don't see one. I think Davy Grant is just so much better than him on the feet. I don't think this one's in the mat. Grant's got more power. Technically sound, maybe Smolka's a little better with his straights, but still, I mean, if he gets his jab going, maybe, but I just don't see where Smolka wins this one. Davy Grant's gonna be able to knock him out early. Again, if he's able to put down Martinez and he's able to look good against a guy like Chito Vera and a guy like Adrian Yanez, he'll dust Luis Smolka. I don't see this one being all that competitive. I like dangerous Davy Grant to come in here, pick up a huge victory. Minus 240 seems like a lock. I would even call it the lock of the night. Davy Grant knocks out Luis Smolka in the 1st round. I don't think he has any problems in doing so, getting back in the win column after losing 2 straight. And again, don't get me wrong, 2 impressive performances, but still finally picking up that win after those 2 losses. So co-main event time, it's Ian Cutelaba taking on Ryan Spann, 2 ranked light heavyweights, or at least I know Ryan Spann is. I don't think Cutelaba is currently. This fight can go one of 2 ways. Either these two stand and bang in the middle of the octagon, or Ian Cutelaba goes back to his dominant wrestling performances like his last 2 fights, well, especially the Devin Clark one. He does something like that and just kind of out-wrestle Spann. I don't think he will, because Ryan Spann is decent off his back. Well, I wouldn't say off his back, but he's decent on the ground in general. Spann does have a lot of submissions on his name. I mean, you got 11 for Spann, and then you got 5 knockouts and 12 knockouts for Cutelaba, sure. But I mean, more recently, it has been Ryan Spann trying to knock guys out, trying to pick up victories. Of course, fighting out of Force MMA is Ryan Spann. His last fight, well, he just gets dominated by Anthony Smith. I mean, Smith knocks him down twice, gets him on the ground, submits him with a rear naked choke, puts him away. All right, that was a levels fight. Ryan Spann could not compete with Anthony Smith. He's better than, Anthony Smith is so much better than Ryan Spann. Ryan Spann knocks out Misha Serkinov. Misha Serkinov's a guy who just lost at Wellington tournament, and that's saying something. So I don't think highly of Misha Serkinov at all, but Ryan Spann knocked him out in a minute. Johnny Walker knocks out Ryan Spann. I talked about that fight before. Ryan Spann had him dead to rights, and then he walks in with his hands down, gets caught, shoots for a takedowns, elbows by Johnny Walker, fight over. He barely beat Sam Alvey, which is questionable at best, considering where Sam Alvey is now. He beat Devin Clark, but, Ion Cutelaba just beat Devin Clark, and then he beat Lil Nog too. He knocked him on the first round over in Brazil. Anyways, for Ion Cutelaba, now he's got a lot of power, and Ion Cutelaba throws very hard. And that guy, he throws very hard. Like, he's going to throw a lot of force into his punches, and now he has, he's won 1-2 in his last 4 fights. But you gotta look at the guys he's fighting. Devin Clark's a good win, and I think that's a fight you have to go back to. It is on the Smith-Spann card, and it's Ion Cutelaba dominating on the wrestling side of things. 8 takedowns, he was 8 for 12 in that one. He knocks down Devin Clark as well. Over 8 minutes of control. It's a good win for Cutelaba. Before that, he loses to Dustin Jacoby. There's a 10-8 round in there, but of course, it's a split decision draw in that one. Jacoby wins on one of the scorecards. Cutelaba wins on the other scorecard, and the other judge had it tied at 28-28. But anyways, it's Cutelaba trying to implement his wrestling game plan. 9 takedowns in that one. Jacoby, though, was able to, come back late in that fight as Ion Cutelaba dominated the first, and the other 2 were Jacoby coming back. But you look at Cutelaba's fight before that against Magomed Ankalaev, he gets knocked out. The first fight is weird, where it's the whole, I'm really not knocked out, but I kind of am. He wasn't, but the referee stopped it early. But anyway, we didn't need to see a second fight. Ankalaev is so much better than Ion Cutelaba. That's the point, really, in this one. It's just a matter of what Cutelaba is going to try to do. Because on the feet, I think stand-up-wise, I think Spann's definitely got a chance to knock him out, 100%. And I think that's why if Cutelaba takes this fight, if he fights this fight conservatively, he should be able to win pretty easily. I think it's going to be takedowns. Okay, if he fights like this, takedowns, be able to try to get this one on the ground against Spann, I think he should be able just to control him down there, like he did to Devin Clark. But he's going to mix it up with the feet as well. So I just think this mix of styles that Cutelaba is able to bring against Ryan Spann is going to be dangerous for a guy like Superman Spann, where, again, Cutelaba is throwing big overhand rights on the feet, throwing very wild on the feet, and then eventually goes back to the takedown, takes down Spann. The fight gets back on the feet, more of the same, and eventually going back to the takedown as well. Stylistically, I just think it's tough for Ryan Spann. Yeah, he's not horrible on the ground with the submissions, but we just haven't seen that recently out of him. It's just been more of him, trying to knock out guys. I know he did catch Devin Clark in a guillotine, which can be a little bit concerning for Cutelaba if he does shoot him for a takedown. But again, I don't think he's going to get caught in that. I think Cutelaba is going to be able to out-wrestle Spann. I think he's going to be able to out-strike Spann. I like Cutelaba to win this one by decision. A lot of people have taken this one by knockout because they think these two will stand and bang in the first round. Someone will go down. I can see a world where that happens, 100%, but I would take a look at this one going the distance and Cutelaba dominating on the ground. I can 100% see a world where that happens, and I can definitely see a world where someone gets knocked down the first round. That can go either way, but I'm going to take the more conservative. I'm going to take the more, I'm going to be more cautious in this pick. I'm going to go with the easy pick. Ion Cutelaba by decision. It could definitely happen in the first round, but I like Cutelaba to win this one 30-27. I think he wins every single round on the ground with continued domination on the feet. Main event time, we have got Jan Blachowicz taking on Aleksander Rakic. Blachowicz trying to build back to that point that he was, of course, the former champion in his last fight, losing to Glover Teixeira, of course, in the second round. The first round is Teixeira landing the takedown, keeping Blachowicz on his back throughout the entire first 5 minutes. In the second round, it's Teixeira getting that single leg, bringing Jan down, takes his back, submission, rear naked choke. Jan kind of taps right away, but Glover is your new champion. We're going to see him against Yuri Prohashka very soon, which is interesting. Really excited for that fight in Singapore. But for Jan Blachowicz, he beats Israel Adesanya, he beats Dominic Reyes, he beats Corey Anderson, beats Jacare, and beats Luke Rockhold on his big winning streak to get that title shot against Dominic Reyes, or the vacant championship, obviously, when John Jones does forfeit the belt. And it was a great run for him. Don't get me wrong, it's a tremendous run for Jan Blachowicz, and he looked very good in doing so in all those different wins. He showed the Polish power, the legendary Polish power, when he knocks out Corey Anderson, who now looks like he is on his way to win a Bellator championship. He should have beat Nemkov that first fight if the eye poke didn't happen. The headbutt, excuse me, not the eye poke. And we're going to see what Corey Anderson does in the rematch against Nemkov. I'm assuming that's what's happening next. But, Blachowicz knocks him out. He knocks out Dominic Reyes in the second fight. He beats Izzy, the first guy to do so against Adesanya. He takes him down. He holds him down. Very nice out of Jan Blachowicz, beating Israel Adesanya, coming up from 185. And then Glover just goes in there and, not to my own horn or anything, but I called that. I said Glover Teixeira was going to submit him. Just saying. I thought it was going to happen. Glover Teixeira is good, man. Glover Teixeira is very good. But Jan Blachowicz just wasn't the better guy on that night. Now, he's taking on a guy in Aleksander Rakic. And for Aleksander Rakic, it's been an interesting run so far in the UFC because sometimes he looks really good and he's really exciting. There's been 2 fights. I'll talk about those 2 fights. In the other fights, he's just been kind of there. And it's just, Oh, Aleksander Rakic is fighting. And I'm looking at his last two fights. His last two fights have been horrible. Like, Anthony Smith, he dominates him. It's a 3-round main event. I'm glad we didn't need to see 5 of that. But August 2020, he beats him, he dominates him, he takes down Anthony Smith. He takes down Anthony Smith. He got 12 minutes of control in that one. It's just dominance out of Aleksander Rakic in that one. Smith couldn't get going. Fight after that's a winner for Thiago Santos. It's one of the worst fights of the year in 2021. It's on Blachowicz Adesanya. Rakic, does enough to win. Santos technically outstrikes him. You look at it, it's 49-36 for Thiago Santos, but Rakic was in control in that fight. The majority of Santos' strikes do come from the third round because Rakic did nothing in the third round. He wins the first 2 in the third. He has absolutely nothing in that round. He coasts in that third because he knew he was up 2 rounds, but man, those first 2 were so boring. It was a horrible fight, man. It was a very bad fight that Rakic does win. Who were the losers in that fight? It was the fans. It was terrible. And that's been Rakic's last fight. He gets his brown belt in jiu-jitsu after winning a striking fight that was boring, barely by decision. I don't understand. Now, the 2 fights that have been very good out of Rakic, it's the Devin Clark fight where he gets him with the spinning back fist back at UFC 231, and then it's when he obviously, one of the best knockouts you're ever going to see, honestly, when he knocks out Jimmy Manuwa with a huge head kick in Sweden on the Gustafsson-Smith card. It's truly one of the best knockouts you will ever see. Like, it's that good, the Rakic knockout over Jimmy Manuwa. It's so good. We haven't seen that guy since. He's just been kind of more cautious since then. He hasn't really gone for it. He's been more of a volume striker, more of a technical guy. Since he did lose to that Volkan Ozdemir after that in Busan, he goes back-to-back beating Lionheart and beating Thiago Santos. Can Jan Blachowicz catch him, though? That's my thing, because I don't think Blachowicz is going to be able to outstrike him for 5 rounds. I think Rakic is so accustomed to this game, and yes, this is going to be his first 5-round main event, because he did have a main event against Anthony Smith, but it didn't go a 5. It was just a 3-round main event. 3-round main event, so this was on short notice. I forget what the scheduled main event of that card was, but Robbie Lawler and Neil Magny was the co-main, but I don't remember what the main event was. Anyways, but Rakic is so accustomed to this game where it's just, kind of like Chookagian, he stays out of danger, he uses his kicks effectively, he's in and out with the strikes, he doesn't really get caught by nothing, and he wins by boring decision. There's a very good chance that happens in this fight, unless Jan can catch him, because I don't think Blachowicz is going to be perfect to where he can continue to outstrike Rakic for 3 different rounds. I don't think that's going to happen. I know Blachowicz, he does that against Adesanya. Sure, he stands there and he outstrikes Adesanya, and he does take him down in the 4th and the 5th. I know that happened, but I think Rakic is so technically sound, so technically gifted, to the point where he's able to get out of danger and he's able to, just avoid big power shots from Jan Blachowicz. I don't think he's going to get hit all that much, and he'll be in and out. He'll be able just to out-touch Blachowicz. He's not going to put too much damage on him unless he can land a big shot like he did against Manuwa, but I don't think he's going to do that. I don't think he's going to land a huge shot against Jan, which is fine because I just think he's going to technically beat him that way. It's hard for me to sell you this fight because I don't think it's going to be all that entertaining. I think Aleksander Rakic is going to beat him for 5 rounds. It's not going to be all that fun. Maybe Jan's going to win some fights, win some rounds. Maybe Jan's going to win a round by knocking him down. Maybe that does happen. But I think Rakic will be able to get back up to his feet. I just don't know what Jan Blachowicz we're going to get after losing the championship. The guy's 39 now. He's at the tail end of his career. Don't get me wrong, 100% he is. Rakic is 30. He's 9 years younger. I'm going Aleksander Rakic to win by decision. I don't think it's all that entertaining. I'm going to go 49-46 for Rakic. I think Jan wins a round by knocking him down once. I think you're going to watch this fight. You're going to come at the end of it like, damn, that was boring. I think it's gonna be like a Magomed Ankalaev, Thiago Santos, where you knew Rakic was the better guy on this night, but you're not overly excited to see him fight again. The winner of this fight's probably gonna fight Ankalaev, where the winner of that fight can go get a title shot. Magomed Ankalaev versus Aleksander Rakic will probably be pretty boring, but I'm taking Aleksander Rakic to beat Blachowicz. Again, I like the legendary Polish power. I do like his big shots, and I do like his power that he will bring to the plate. But again, in a striking fight, this is going to stay on the feet 100%. In a striking fight with him and Aleksander Rakic, I think Rakic is going to do enough. I don't think it's going to be entertaining, but I think he's going to be able to touch, and he's going to use his jab. He's going to use the cross over the top as well. I don't think he's going to put too much damage on Blachowicz, but I think he'll, on points, technical striking, it's going to be Aleksander Rakic winning this one by unanimous decision. So that's why I like Rakic to come in here in his 2nd UFC main event, but his first 5-round fight, and beat Jan Blachowicz by unanimous decision, like him 4 rounds to 1. So folks, thank y'all for watching another UFC preview and predictions here on the channel. If you haven't yet, though, make sure that subscribe button down below for more as we do one of these every single week. We'll be back next week for Holly Holm, Kelton Vieira. I think that's next week. I think we might have a break after this week. I don't know. But, for the next UFC card, we'll be back. And make sure that subscribe button down below for more as we are on that road to 2,000. Far past that. On that road to 10,000 subscribers, we're only about 200 away, so make sure that subscribe button down below if you have not yet. Thank you for watching, and Mamba forever.